It's the Inside Blitz, the playoff edition. There's
Finally.
two of us here. There's Ted from Sports USA in the off season, and there's Ron. We gave Chris the week off this week. And the reason why we are giving Chris the week off is very, very simple. I have to change the settings here. Very, very simple. Oh, I'm getting feedback, but Chris is a Detroit Lion fan. And with the Detroit Lions, they didn't make the playoffs, but they had a great run. So we're giving them the first week of the playoffs off. I was a Seattle fan. I was the only one who backed Seattle at the beginning of the year, so I'm riding them to the playoffs. And Ted's love for Brandon Staley has just really shown week after week. He's got his Charger uniform on. He's here today. How are you doing, Ted?
I'm doing great, and I'm wearing my San Diego Chargers shirt. That's just in case Brandon Staley has to move to San Diego and he doesn't have anything to do in L.A. soon. But look, I love this time of the year. Wild Card Weekend is always fantastic, no matter what the matchups are. It's just a phenomenal weekend because there's so many intriguing stories going in. And one of them's the Chargers. And we learned this morning, it's the news of the day thus far, it's early, that Mike Williams not only will not play for the Chargers this weekend, he's not even making the trip. Oh, my aching back. Oh, my aching back, because I shouldn't have played last week, or I shouldn't have played more than a couple of down. It should have been a week 3 or 4 like the old preseason was. It's just a bad decision. And Brandon Staley can have 500 ways to talk his way out of that and why he did it. And I don't have enough players. I can't do this. Really, the New York Giants had enough players to bench everybody on Sunday. Why didn't he? So I don't get it. There's an arrogance factor there that bugs the crap out of me. It really does. It's like I'm above whatever is the norm in football, the rules, the laws that we've always lived by that make sense for a reason. And he just, no, I'm doing it my way. I was like, okay, good luck. Keenan Allen, baby, you better throw it to him 120 times this week.
The matchup is really intriguing because we've got two teams that are really on a roll. Jacksonville's here because they've won a bunch of games in a row. They bought into the system. The free agent spending spree really worked. Christian Kirk has proven to be pretty good, and Trevor Lawrence has thrown 2 interceptions in his last 9 games. Everything's clicking. Same with the Chargers. You know the drill with special teams and the Chargers. That's what's failed them year after year after year. Now I'm waiting for the absolute definitive rating that they have in terms of special teams, but I think it's going to be top 15. It's not going to be 29, 30, 31, 32. Going into this game, Ted, I really thought that if Jacksonville played anyone but the Chargers and the Chargers played anyone but Jacksonville, I'd be on them because these teams and the playoff indicators indicate that both teams would give their maximum effort. But now we have to decide between this game, because they're playing each other, the line opened Pick'em and the Chargers about a 1-point favored. We're now looking at 2.5. What are your thoughts regarding the line and the key matchups for this game?
Yeah, interesting line change there. I'm not totally understanding it. To me, Jacksonville's already proven they can beat them because they beat the crap out of them in week number 3. So, that we've already had a matchup. So there's something to go on, although that was a long time ago. And it's always hard to say, yeah, this is the same exact team as it was in week 3 now that we're in the postseason. But I don't know if the Chargers without Mike Williams are in the same situation from an offensive standpoint. And in that game, they lost Joey Bosa in the game against Jacksonville with the groin injury. So he was out for many, many weeks after that. Now he's back, but he apparently somehow aggravated that groin injury this past week when he shouldn't have been playing. Let me throw that in again. So, okay, so how is he going to do? Because the pass rush is going to be huge in this game for the Chargers. That's one of the absolute keys. And if Joey Bosa is not at his best, and they already don't have Mike Williams, which in my opinion, they have underused him when he's been healthy. because of his size advantage against everybody, I would be throwing to that guy a handful of times more every game, because just throw it in the air. Nobody else can get it. But I think the pass rush against Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence is a huge key in this game.
Okay. One of the things, we have all rematches this playoff season.
Yeah.
Every one of these 6 matchups, they played once or twice.
Exactly.
This is the one that I throw out completely. This was week 3. If the viewers, the listeners, if you remember what happened week 2, Justin Herbert shouldn't have been playing week 3. He was beat up and battered against Kansas City. Everybody wondered whether he'd be out for a month. And then he took the field. Jacksonville won easy. You could see he was in pain. I'm sure he got shot up before the game. I have to throw that one completely out the window. The one thing I can't throw out, though, is the fact that the Chargers, their yards per carry running the ball, even though Austin Eckler is a wonderful back, and he, like Travis Etienne, both of them are run-pass balance guys. They can catch the ball. They catch it naturally. But the Chargers' offensive line doesn't really move the needle in terms of the push against the defensive line. And the Chargers' defensive line is so susceptible to the run. It's last in the NFL in terms of yards per carry against the run. Does that factor at all into the equation, not only just the sacks, but how do you look at it from a running standpoint?
Oh, absolutely. And Eckler has not been a great runner this year. He's been a great touchdown producer, and he's been a great all-around back. And we already know, throw him at least 4, 5, 6 passes out of the backfield, and he's going to be a huge part of your offense. But his runs per carry is nothing special this year. So I think you mix that up, and maybe you got to throw him the ball a few more times without Mike Williams. So that could be a factor too. Travis Etienne is he's been outstanding. I love his game, and it's a great combination with him and Lawrence. You know, the old guys from school days, right? So this got to be something really special for them to in their first playoff opportunity. But I love what the Chargers do with Austin Eckler, but I think they're going to have to throw him the ball a few more times this game to be totally effective.
And pretty much this is a pass funnel game. Jacksonville defends the run reasonably well. Herbert, I expected him to throw 41 times. His number came out 37 and a half, which is still relatively high for a game, but it's lower than I expected in terms of what Herbert is going to have to do through the air, unless they just can't stop the run and they don't get enough time of possession. But you're right. It's going to be the Keenan Allen show. They'll throw some to the tight ends. Eckler will probably catch 5 or 6 passes. I have a strategy that I want to throw out that I've used in the past. Ted, you probably remember this. Chris has remembered this as well. We can't get a natural 3 on this game. My power ratings do not support the Chargers being 2.5. And even though I could see the Chargers winning, whenever there's a power rating dog, I generally lean or play the power rating dog. So if I want to get 3, first of all, you have to shop around because you could be paying an arm and a leg to get to 3. The best I saw to get to 3 is minus 125. I usually throw 2/3 of the play on a +3. Whenever the line's 2.5, play 2/3 of the play at +3 and 1/3 of the play on the money line, and you come out with a little bit better vig. So what I did, for example, if you played $125 to win 100 on +3, or 250 to win 200 is 2/3 of the play, and then you put back 100 to win 125 on the best money line you can find, and the money line ranges from 115 to 125, then you're going to have a play of 350 to win 325, which is less than the 110 standard. You'll be in trouble if the Chargers win by just 1 or 2. You'll save money if the Chargers win by 3, and you'll win the same amount or a little bit more if they win by more than that. But my strategy on this game, based on my power ratings, is to buy the 3 and also use the money line in a 66-33 split.
Let me ask you, do you know if I'm assuming it has not been affected, the line with the Mike Williams news this morning, and
no.
if it might budge a little bit, or would this be a last minute tomorrow? It starts to show, and there'll be some late money here to get it to 3.
I think it's going to tick down. First of all,
Really?
I think it's going to tick down. It's not going to, with remember the Chargers are favored by 2.5.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah.
the Mike
No,
Williams
I mean,
news is
yeah.
going to knock it down.
Right. No, I mean the other way is what I'm saying. It shouldn't it come down some because of that or no?
Yeah, it's pretty much staying 2.5 right now, but I think you're going to see a 1.5 by
Yeah,
game
that's what I'm
time.
thinking too. I misspoke. I'm sorry. Yeah, the bottom line is that he's an important guy here. How do you just think that it doesn't exist? That he's just another guy. Now I don't know what he's worth. We always talk about the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers has always been worth a
Yeah.
touchdown in your brain when other guys are worth like a half a point. So
yeah, maybe a half a point. It's the perception more than anything, but
yeah,
also based on my power ratings, the line really should have ticked down. Even if Mike Williams was playing, I think the line should have ticked down a little bit. So
yeah.
bottom line is I'm forced based on my power ratings to have a play on Jacksonville in this game. Bottom line, who do you think wins this game?
Wow. I'm leaning towards the Chargers because I think they have the better team. But it doesn't mean I've put any money on it. Talk is cheap, baby, and so am I. So I'm leaning Chargers small, but Jacksonville usually it's look for both quarterbacks. It's first time playoff stuff, right? So it's not like there's any major advantage either way. I just like Justin Herbert a little bit more in this situation, but I love the coaching a lot more on the Jacksonville side. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's a fascinating game to put a wrap
Yeah.
on it. I do think if the Chargers win, they have a better chance moving forward. That's just based on indicators, but this game, pretty much a toss-up to me. First game of the day on Saturday is actually Seattle, San Francisco. They play twice a year. The line is held fairly steady around 10. The total was dropped, and the total was dropped primarily because we may have some weather issues out west in San Francisco. A little rain, a little wind. Ted, what are your initial thoughts about this one?
Well, Sports USA did San Francisco game last Sunday, and it was supposed to be a torrential downpour, and it didn't even drizzle. So, but that was a few days in advance. So we'll see. I mean, we still have time, but yes, we have a storm coming to the West Coast this weekend. It's supposed to be there all weekend. Who knows by Sunday or tomorrow afternoon how bad it'll be. I love what San Francisco is doing. I think there's a trend number of teams that have, and there aren't too many of them, that come into the postseason with at least a 10-game winning streak. That doesn't happen every week or every year. It's not a great trend. I think it's on the losing side. But hey, you got to love everything San Francisco is doing. Seattle is they're a little bit banged up. Geno Smith has turned it around somewhat towards the end. So to me, he should still be comeback player of the year times a million. I mean, I don't even know who else is in the discussion with his career and what he's done this year to get them to the playoffs. I don't know if Seattle's defense is up to the task for this particular game. There's the Brock Purdy first time in the playoffs factor, but he is now, to me, Mr. Very relevant any way you look at it. And I got to go with San Francisco. I just don't see Seattle winning this game.
So some interesting nuggets on this particular game. Pete Carroll will be the first coach to see Brock Purdy a second time. We always talk about tape on quarterbacks from one year to the next. Now we're talking about just a few weeks ago. How does that factor in? Brock Purdy was 17 of 26, 217 yards, 2 TDs, very efficient, pretty much like he's played all year in terms of how he stepped into a loaded offense and a great offensive line and that tight end that I always say rookie quarterbacks need. And it's perfect. Now, here's another nugget that I didn't think I'd be saying, at least I haven't said for about 3 years. San Francisco is getting pretty healthy.
Yep.
I mean, that's unusual. They got Elijah Mitchell to play some snaps last week, and he's a 6-yard per carry guy, which is amazing. They got Deebo Samuel back. On the stat sheet shows 1 or 2 catches, but he played 38 snaps. So look deeper than just the stat sheet. You know, he was out there running routes and getting his feet wet. That's very important before the playoff game.
Yeah, that was a practice game for him without having to use him physically.
Yeah, it was absolutely perfect against Arizona, a team that they toyed with. They had him get snaps. They didn't have him get bruised up. It was absolutely perfect. Now, the Geno Smith factor, you know, what a year he's had. You talk about comeback player of the year, but a lot of turnovers the last month. You know, he more than doubled the turnovers in the last 5 weeks.
That's the whole key to. Yeah, it's the whole key to this game. If he doesn't turn the ball over, we probably have a ball game. If he does, it's over.
Now, one stat that bothers me about San Francisco is they're not perfect on the pass D. They've got Boza, obviously, who wreaks havoc on everybody and anything, which will force Geno into interceptions. But we also have a problem in that they have a 65.5% pass D, and Geno's an accurate passer. So there are going to be completed passes because, after all, you've got Tyler Lockett and Metcalf on the other side, and these guys are game breakers. They're outstanding individuals and they're great targets, and Lockett catches everything. So that's a worry on San Francisco's side. But the big thing is, will Geno stay upright? Because San Francisco has 46 defensive sacks on the year. Seattle still has allowed 45, so they haven't fixed that. Their offensive line has 2 rookies in it. So it's a work in progress. The big issue for me, does the weather at all? Let's say it's rainy and windy. Sometimes that evens the playing field for underdogs. Do you take weather, Ted, as a factor at all in this game?
Again, if there's wind, it's always a factor, but it doesn't give anybody an advantage. It's just who deals with it better. I still think that, especially the way Geno's playing, quick release time for him, especially if there's wind, get rid of the ball, and so you'll see a lot of quick short passes and RPOs all over the place. And I think that's what their strategy should be. And don't be standing back there like a statue getting ready to get hammered all day long. That makes no sense. So, yeah, just get rid of the ball real quick, and sort of what they did the way Russell Wilson always played for them, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got to get rid of it. They have enough targets. They're going to try to run Walker as much as possible. I mean, he's an outstanding rookie back. He was my top-rated back coming in. He's played like it. It's hard to run on San Francisco, one of the top 2 running defenses. If Walker gets going, they shorten the game, then Seattle's the right play. I kind of lean Seattle's way, but there is one factor that bothers me, and that's teams that, it may seem trivial, but every little nugget matters to me. Teams that are extended in the regular season, they play that overtime game week 18, and then they jump right into the playoffs. And I mean jump right into the playoffs because you're going to San Francisco on a short week. That's not been a good factor. It's been a horrible factor. It's going to keep me off the game. I do have one recommended prop in this particular game.
Prop him
up. Brock Purdy, 5.5 rushing yards. Kneel down. Sacks do not count against rushing totals in the NFL. We saw how it impacted rushing totals in the championship game when Georgia steamrolled TCU. That was benefit. Thank you for
was that a game? Isn't a game supposed to be competitive? That wasn't a game. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I think they called it off pretty quickly in that one. But in this case, kneel downs do count against rushing yards. And if San Francisco takes a couple kneel downs, Brock Purdy ran for negative yardage the last time they played. I do not recommend Brock Purdy's rushing yards in this particular game. I would go under in that particular game.
Yeah, I would lean towards Seattle in a as far as the spread is concerned, because I think they can, especially if there's wind in this game. That really should tighten this ball game up. It's going to be tough to win by double digits in my mind. So good luck,
Yeah, that's the factor that I think definitely favors Seattle. Plus the tape on Brock Purdy. I can't get around that too. A lot of fascinating things going on in this game.
And a veteran head coach that will be, he's not going against Nathaniel Hackett here. So, you got some guy who could take it. By the way, nobody's going against Nathaniel Hackett. But go ahead.
That's true too. And Ted, I think we've really digested this game and discussed it a lot. There's a lot of variables, a lot of moving parts, and you can make a case for either side. Miami, Buffalo, I'm not sure you can make a case for either side with Skylar Thompson as the one. Miami won on penalty kicks last week, 9-6. 11-6 if you count whatever that was that impacted a lot of sports bettors and my middle last week with that last-minute safety. Again, we have a third meeting in this game. They met each other twice. I was very impressed with how Miami played against Buffalo in bitter cold. Not that long ago, less than a month ago, 12-17, 32-29. The question I have is, can Skylar get the ball to his playmakers because they're great in space? Skylar Thompson from Miami, what are your thoughts?
I think they're in major trouble. I just cannot see them winning at all in this game. I don't know how they would even have a chance. And that's sad because, this had the makings of a damn good matchup. If Tua was healthy, to have a literally a rematch of whatever that last one was, like 4 weeks ago, something. It wasn't long ago, right, when they played in Buffalo. It would have been such a great game. And now I just don't know how Miami has a chance in hell. And it's too bad that even Teddy B can't get out there. Probably it's likely that he's not, because that would at least make it a little more interesting. But Skylar, I mean, much more about him than I do. You know about his college days, and he's not ready to play. So how do you put that in a wild card game?
Yeah, we ran a completely different system in college, and we've seen in a small sample size in the NFL, every time he completes a pass, it's for less than 10 yards per carry. You really want to be in the 11.1, 10.9 range as a quarterback, as average in this league, but he's under 9 yards per completion. And he translates in this game, even though Buffalo's defense is not as good as it has been in the past, it's allowing a healthy percentage. Skylar's percentage might be fine, but you're talking about maybe 19 completions for 170 plus yards. Unless he can get one of those slant patterns to Tyreek Hill or to Waddle. I mean, these guys are game changers, but they are going to have to run shorter routes with Skylar Thompson, who's hit a roughly 54% of his passes, I believe.
Yeah, so turn it around, and what about the Miami D against the Buffalo O? I mean, there's an interesting matchup there. I don't know if wind is supposed to be a factor at all. I didn't see anything on that in Buffalo, but if it is, that's the only equalizer, because otherwise Miami's got to keep up offensively with whatever Buffalo could put on the board, and I just don't think there's a chance with Skylar Thompson to be close.
Yeah, well, Miami's pass D is sitting at 67%, so Josh Allen is going to salivate in the pass game. He's going to complete 2 out of every 3 passes, most likely a little bit more than that. Diggs is going to be open. They're going to have to give him some wiggle room there because their best defensive players in the secondary, Byron Jones, for example, I don't think he played it down this year or minimal. They're just doing it kind of on pins and needles. Their pass rush, they have a lot of young pass rushers that might get to Josh Allen. But if they don't get to Josh Allen, they're going to be players open all over the place, chance for big plays. Miami's still a work in progress. Ted, the only way I could see this game being competitive is if Miami has absolutely no turnovers in this game.
Absolutely. It has to be. And I wonder from an emotional standpoint, we talked about what Buffalo's gone through the last few weeks. Will there be a guy by the name of DeMar Hamlin in the house for this game? I haven't heard either way, but why not? If he's feeling healthy enough, maybe have him in the owner's booth or something. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the playoffs may play out, because I think Buffalo emotion is going to play a part with Buffalo all playoff season, and at some point it just gets too much and your body shuts down a little. But I don't think that's going to happen this week. The opponents know each other. You're right, Hamlin might be in the house. There might be a message there. They're going against Skylar Thompson, so this isn't the biggest test. They may go against Cincinnati and Joe Burrow again next week, but that's next week. They have to put that out of their mind. Bottom line for this game, I think the only way you can look at it is in some sort of parlay, but you're going to be paying a premium. Certainly you're paying a premium because the odds have really moved up. You're in the 13 range or something like that now. It's best a game if you're looking at props. I would say some of the receivers, their yardage for Miami can't be that high with Skylar Thompson there. Maybe they get their receptions, but I really don't see them getting their yards because they're going to be shortening the field.
One other thing on Damar Hamlin. If you're the head coach, would you want him to show up like early on before the game and show up in the locker room and have the guys rally around him? Or would you rather do that the day before and not have them get too overhyped when you just want them to go out and play hard?
I like that. I like the day before thing. I don't know how, and it's less crowds there. It's less pressure on him and everybody who has to get him there and all the mechanics.
And you could, and the focus will be there when you need it to be there.
Yeah. Let's send that to Buffalo because I think that's a tremendous suggestion because then he's got the focus, just like you said, and the focus can be on him the day before because they're going to do walkthroughs anyway.
Yeah, totally. It's just about everybody rallying around to being the family thing. Yeah. And then again, this is all assuming he's going to be there for the game.
Yeah.
And then he'd be up in the owner's box and then, the rest is for the fans and everything else. And the guys will wave to him occasionally, but play the game and you're not too overly hyped about it.
I love it. I'd love to see him on the field the day before.
That would be great.
There, I mean, just watching the routes and the walkthroughs.
The whole story is just the fact that he's here is amazing. So good for him.
Well, that's going to be a wrap on that one, but we've got an interesting one that comes up after that. Second game on Saturday. Now we're talking Giants, Minnesota. When last we saw them, Ted, it took a 61-yard field goal as time expired for Minnie to get yet another come-from-behind win. I mean, here's a team. You're looking at a team that is 13-4 and has been outscored for the season.
And it's only the third time in NFL playoff history that we've had two teams that have been outscored for the season playing against each other.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about teams with new coaches that overachieved during the year, but I've talked about this with you guys, you and Chris. I've talked about it on other shows. Neither team is in my top 15 power rankings. These are teams. In other words, if the Chargers played one of them and Jacksonville played the other, I know what I'd be doing on this game. Yeah,
okay,
taking the teams there that way.
Yeah, I'm wondering when's the last time, if there was one, probably was, that you recall a division winner that is not in your top 15 in power rankings.
Well, that would be Tennessee almost last year, number one seed. I was going to say,
yeah, but that's almost.
Yeah. You'd have to go back a ways. There was an 8-9 team. I think maybe it was a Washington, Tampa. I think Seattle was.
Yeah, I was going to say Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really close. I mean, these teams.
But that's a long time ago now.
Yeah. I mean, give Minnie credit because they play hard for their coach. It's a relaxed atmosphere, and obviously give the Giants credit because they're overseeing. They're overreaching their pay grade because they lost two defensive starters, and yet they're playing better defense than they've ever played before. Daniel Jones, 5 interceptions on the entire year, cut down his fumbles. I mean, they're not giving away games. Instead, they're taking away games.
Yeah, but I still say they're playing conservative with Daniel Jones, Danny Pesos, as I call him, not Danny Dimes. Yeah. And he's fine. He's doing the job. He's earned the right, I guess, to come back and be their guy for at least another year, right?
We had that spirited discussion last week between you and Chris, and I loved it. That point.
Yeah. So is it franchise tag time or not with him? And maybe does it depend on what they do in this game? It's only one game, and the same with Kirk Cousins, by the way. Now I know he's not going anywhere, but Kirk Cousins, if he loses this game, it's going to be everybody saying the same old Kirk Cousins. He doesn't win the big games. All that season for nothing. It's going to be, whether that you believe it or not, that's what it's going to be.
Maybe one of the key ingredients for both of these head coaches is to get these teams to relax, get these quarterbacks to relax, to take the pressure off both Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins, to get it out of their mind, because it's probably in their mind. The media is going to tell them that. The coaches have to say, You're playing the Giants. You just played them 3 weeks ago. You're playing the Vikings. You just played them 3 weeks ago. What can we do better from that game? What do we have to clean up? Because, this game is almost a toss-up if you look at the stat sheet, if you look at the way they played last week. What really separates these two teams? What gets you excited about Minnesota, for example?
Nothing. Besides Justin Jefferson's the greatest receiver since Jerry Rice. Small sample size, of course. But I mean, he is unbelievable. He's just so great to watch. He's one of those few guys I will pay for my seats to watch him play. But outside of that, and they got a good running game, and they've got a lot of stuff. Their defense is more disappointing than I expected him to be. I don't like what their offense is against a New York physical defense. Right now, the Giants are playing physical ball, right? It's not a bunch of Pro Bowlers out there, but they are playing hard, and that's playoff football.
Yeah. No, I agree completely with that. These teams are really on an upswing. Their motivation is going to be quite high. What I see in this particular game is an absolute large number of pass completions. We've got Minnesota not defending the pass. It's all going to be about putting pressure on these quarterbacks.
Yep.
You must put pressure on Kirk Cousins. Otherwise, he has 6 weapons. I mean, Delvin Cook is an excellent pass catcher. They have 2 tight ends now. Irv Smith is back, and he caught 4 passes.
We're not allowed to talk about Minnesota tight ends on this show because TJ Hawkinson and Chris go back to their Lion days, and he's not happy about that deal.
13 receptions.
Can you explain that deal to me, sir? Why they unloaded him for nothing like that? I don't get it. Sorry.
Somehow Detroit still was more than competitive even without him, but it certainly helped Minnesota get through what they needed to get through. He caught 13 passes against the New York Giants.
Yeah, you think
Jefferson
they might use
caught
him?
12. That's 25 with 2 guys. And we haven't talked about the supporting cast. We haven't talked about Irv Smith. We haven't talked about Adam Thielen. There's a lot of weapons. If you don't get to Cousins, there's going to be a lot of points scored on that side. And conversely,
yes, I was going to say, but Jones, bottom line is the Giants can't score a lot of points, so they better not let that happen.
Well, they can if Minnesota's pass rush doesn't get to Daniel Jones, because the same thing, you have an almost 67% pass completion percentage. Minnesota's secondary is not very good. Now, I understand that the Giants don't have a lot of named weapons at wide receiver, but they spread the ball around really nicely. They have a lot of guys who have good hands catchers. Isaiah Hodgkins has worked out. Slayton is undervalued. Their tight ends are undervalued. Bellinger, the rookie, has caught a lot of passes. And Barkley has had a resurgence year, talking about comeback players. Barkley had an efficient day against Minnesota. He's going to be relied upon tremendously in this particular game. He is going to get open in space, much like Delvin Cook can get open in space. This could be a track meet unless the pass rushers get to the opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, but if you're Daboll, don't you want to be a clock manager here and try and have long drives, keep the ball away from the Minnesota offense, and let it come down to giving yourself a chance to win at the end, as opposed to maybe chasing a score and doing it the hard way? That's the way I would look at it.
I think he looks at it that way because of something you said earlier, not putting Daniel Jones in harm's way.
Well,
I don't think it's because of Minnesota. I think it's because, how do I make Daniel Jones the best quarterback he can be? And this is the offense that we're going to use. And it's been better. Well, everything's been better than last year, and it should be better than this year. I mean, I have a tendency to say that if we think the pass rush isn't going to be there, and I actually do think that this game is going to be 5 or more sacks. But if they don't get through, we're looking at over the total of 49, 50, 51 points, especially in the conditions that Minnesota plays. I think it's a dome-like conditions. So, there you have it. Is this a 50-50 game, or is Minnesota a little bit more talented?
Oh, Minnesota's more talented, but their defense isn't. So that's the equalizer to me. Okay, so that gives the Giants the offensive opportunity to make this game a really good game. But I don't trust the mini D. I don't trust either team overall. And you can't point differential, baby. It tells everything. So I don't even lean towards either team. I really don't.
Yeah, this is one game. If you gave me 3.5, I'd probably take it on general principle because it's a 3-point game. But other than that, I can make a case for either team. I can't really get involved. I have a small to moderate lean to the over, and I'll flush that out a little bit more in terms of points. And with player props, I would have more of an over slant than I usually have under good conditions and a lot of open completions. I think I'll be looking to actually back some players in terms of yardage as opposed to phase them out.
Right.
At least with the major weapons. I think they're going to go major weapons. You're going to see Barkley. You're going to see Jefferson. You're going to see that both tight ends be efficient.
Yeah. So, and I think the last thing I want to say about this game is I don't think I've heard any more than what the public is talking about. Everybody loves the Giants in this game, it seems like. The Giants are the upset team of the week and all that. It's like, okay, I wouldn't be shocked if they won, but I'm not that high on them. I think that this is a game like they all are, but specifically this one from a don't turn it over standpoint, Danny. Don't turn it over, and you got a chance.
I think it may have been this game, may have been the Miami Buffalo game. I apologize, but we did get a question from Russell who said we saw 5 field goals last game. That must have been the Miami Buffalo game. He says, would you talk me off 3.5 field goals? I'm assuming the Miami Buffalo game plus 110. Well, that depends on weather conditions. I wouldn't necessarily talk you off that because Miami's drives could easily stall in the red zone because Skylar Thompson's not going to stretch the field. And then what you have in that particular case is a shortened field where Buffalo can defend more of the field when you get down inside the 20. I just don't know how many field goal attempts there will be because what if Buffalo isn't stopped at all? Buffalo has a chance to race it out. I won't prevent you from playing that, but it wouldn't be part of my toolbox to play over 3.5 field goals in that particular game.
Yeah, we're limited in time here, so we probably should move on immediately.
We'll move on. We're going to move on to Baltimore, Cincinnati.
Oh, we can pass that game.
Every time Baltimore hits the field, you get a physical game. And the one thing about Cincinnati is that now they're going to face Baltimore twice in a row. So they get a physical game twice in a row. I think you have to throw last week's game out, Ted, because Baltimore was playing for nothing pretty much. They've teased us all along. Lamar Jackson might play. Lamar Jackson won't play. Lamar Jackson's not playing the rest of the year. Maybe if they got to the Super Bowl. But Lamar Jackson, it's partially, this is my opinion only, partially pain tolerance and partially the style of play lends him to these injuries that are not easily healable, and he needs extra time to develop. Tyler Huntley's game is very similar to Lamar Jackson's, but he's not Lamar Jackson. Exactly. Assuming Tyler Huntley plays in this game, and obviously he didn't play last week, what do you see from Baltimore in this game going against maybe the best defense in the league?
Yeah, well, I want to stress that I disagree. Maybe not disagree. I don't even know if I can use it as a subject, pain tolerance, because you cannot ever get into somebody else's brain and feelings exactly what's going through their mind and their body. Okay, so I never go there. I mean, a guy could be totally injury prone, but that doesn't mean he has low pain tolerance. He might. I mean, we're talking about a sprained PCL, which is sort of a weird kind of an injury, and I mean, we're just learning of that right in this past week. So we don't know how bad it is, but look, bottom line is it's not good enough for him to run. And if he can't run, he's not Lamar Jackson. And that's the whole reason why he should have never been his own agent. And he blew it from a contract standpoint. You get too greedy and you pay the piper the wrong way in the long run. So yeah, look, Tyler Huntley is not Lamar Jackson. Hopefully he can keep this a game. I love everything Cincinnati is doing. I got a major issue. They are down a couple guys on the O-line. So here we go again. good luck. As long as Joe Burrow doesn't get his head beat in, hopefully that'll be, not a factor in this game. But that to me is if I'm Baltimore, it's like, hey, baby, I'm going after Joe Burrow. And then whatever happens, happens.
And they're going to have to go after Joe Burrow. We saw this last year. You and I commented on this. I have for
100
years.
times.
with Kansas City last year, all new offensive line. They needed the first half of the season to get rolling. And now Kansas City's offensive line is in perfect harmony. Cincinnati allowed 32 sacks in their first 8 games. No team has sacked Cincinnati more than twice in their last 9 games.
That's unbelievable.
It is absolutely unbelievable. They're playing over their pay grade. I don't really think they're up to that. I think I agree completely with you. If Baltimore's going to have a chance, they're going to have to overcome. If they have 2 sacks in this game, Joe Burrow is that
The
good.
game is over. It's already over.
I mean, that's good. But Roquan Smith, he's done wonders for this team. He just got hit with a big contract, well-deserved. Got it before Lamar Jackson, but that's a different story.
Totally.
Their run defense was already good, Baltimore. It got even better. It's one of the best run defenses in the land. Roquan Smith is a very fundamental player. He makes other people better in terms of when he finishes his tackles, he's in the right spot. He's going to force Joe Burrow to be pass-centric in this game, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because Joe Mixon is not running the ball with the yards per carry that I like to see. He's under 4. You can't be under 4 in this league. The league average is over 4. So that's a problem from Mixon. Mixon will be effective as a pass receiver, but really this is Burrow to T. Higgins. This is Burrow to Jamar Chase. This is Burrow to his 2 tight ends, Hurts and Wilcox. And it plays into the hands where Baltimore has allowed leads to dissipate all season long. Baltimore is going to force Burrow to throw, but if they don't get to Burrow, he's going to force Burrow to throw effectively against them.
Yeah, I think that this has got the makings of a big-time under to me in the game. Because Baltimore is not going to be able to score much, but I think their defense should be able to keep this game tight. And unless Tyler Huntley throws it away, like a pick 6 here and there, or, just gives up really bad field position on turnovers, I see this being a very low scoring game. And by the way, one of the things we talked about very early in the season was, I think, the first month about the Cincinnati O-line, that it was a work in progress and we expected them to get better. And that's exactly what's happened because they rebuilt it with some veterans on there as well. And that should be better as the season goes. So that's what they've done, and good for them.
We always think of Baltimore as a great defensive team, and they're certainly above average. But you look at 67% allowed through the air, and Cincinnati under 60%, which is this day and age is impossible. And that's what they've done. I think we need to give more credit to Cincinnati's defense. My thoughts, the 43 and a half and 43 line that was originally set on this game was too high. It's now ticked to 40 and a half.
Oh, it has.
If we have Anthony Brown in this game, this is non-competitive. If we have Huntley in this game, Baltimore's strategy of playing is going to make the +10 interesting to me. These teams know each other. Well, obviously, they play twice a year. I mean, they played last week. They know everything everybody else is going to do. In that respect, it's more of an under. I really think that if we do get Huntley for this game, my lean is Baltimore. The under was hit at 43 and a half. That was the right side. I have one player to discuss with you, Ted, and that's T. Higgins, a wonderful wide receiver. I mean, Cincinnati has 2 number 1 wide receivers on their roster, and they have Tyler Boyd. Yeah. So they have a lot of embarrassment of riches. Now, T. Higgins, that was brutal what he had to go through. After that particular game, he was the receiver, and he was taking a lot of blame, and he got some hate mail for everything. And his ridiculous whole mindset, it was just terrible. His mind, understandably, wasn't really in the game. He didn't have a great game. They didn't need, to use him that much. If we can get him past that, I just don't know quite yet what his mindset is, but that's the one person I'm intrigued to see what kind of game he has.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I find it. I really believe he's going to be fine for this game. He's going to be back to himself. God, I wish I had 5 minutes with him alone. Seriously, I would love to talk to that guy and just say, hey, if you even have an ounce of guilt or negativity in your body because of the stupid crap that's come your way that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Um, I got to believe he's totally fine by now. And maybe that extra week is just what the doctor ordered. Just another
Yeah.
week in between a game that didn't mean anything in that respect to him, certainly. And now he could just be himself and just play ball, baby.
Yeah, so this game kind of shapes up as one where eventually Cincinnati may pull away, or maybe Baltimore can't afford
Yeah.
that pass defense to get any worse than it has been. But Baltimore's game plan is probably going to be shorten this game.
Yep, absolutely. And I think they are capable of doing that. Certainly, it better be Huntley. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
better be Huntley. It's AARP time for you and I.
Oh, here we go.
It's Tom Brady in action. Another home game. I don't know if it's a deserved home game. They are playing better.
You
Here's
don't
Tom
know if it's a
Brady.
deserved. You do know it's not a deserved home game.
Here's Tom Brady. 55 minutes in a game. He looks like, what is he doing? And then you put him in rhythm. The other team goes 3 and out a couple of times. And Tom Brady, whether he's 45, 25, 85, he will pick you apart. And on the other side, Ted, we have Mike McCarthy and Dallas. We know Dallas is talented. I think that if you take away the big five, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly, and San Francisco, Dallas on its best days can play with any of them. But we saw what happened last week against Washington. Dallas has trickled down from 3 down to 2.5. They opened the season against Tampa in 2020. They opened the season against Tampa in 2021. Those games are so long ago, it means nothing to me. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I just like Tampa Bay at home. Not a lot because I don't like their team. But I think the matchup and the circumstances mean something this time. I don't like the way Dallas is coming into the postseason. I always say I like to have a little bit of positive momentum going in. I don't see any. They're sort of stumbling in. The Cowboys are. Dak looks like he's gotten sloppy, and maybe I don't know what he's trying to prove out there, but he seems to every once in a while he thinks he's a gunslinger and he's throwing it in traffic and just doing stupid stuff. So you can't do that in this game and expect to win. You might get away with it because Tampa's not that good, but they're good enough to win at home. And it's Tom Brady. It's not all on his shoulders, and his shoulders aren't as broad as they used to be, and they're a lot older. So, if it does come down to who has the ball last, who do you want with the ball, Tom Brady or Dak?
You made a good point because Dak has been interception prone this year. Unlike previous years, he's thrown a lot of them, especially lately. And that's a real problem because you can't give away short drives, because if you do that, Tom Brady gets in rhythm. Now, Tom Brady, it may be on his shoulders because that yards per carry offense is 3.3. They are most likely not going to run. Most likely, Tom Brady is going to throw the ball over 40 times. He's got good receivers, but we've talked about it all year. There's no Gronk in the red zone. They're settling for way too many field goals. There's no Ndamukong Suh defending the run. And now they have to go against Elliott, and they have to go against Pollard, who's been an effective change of pace back more than that. I mean, he's their leading runner.
Yeah.
They have T.Y. Hilton on Dallas now, and he's an efficient run route. He runs routes really efficiently. He's an excellent sidekick to CeeDee Lamb, to Schultz, who's a very good tight end, who's the other guy? Michael Gallup, who is an effective number 2. There's a lot of weapons for Dak, and it's really incumbent on Tampa Bay's sometimes bend but break defense and sometimes bend but not break defense to put Dak in uncomfortable situations so that he doesn't hit all these weapons.
Yeah, there's just so many question marks in this game. It drives you crazy, really, what you think's going to happen, because which Dallas offense is going to show up, which Dallas defense is going to show up. They've been inconsistent in a disappointing way. We expected a lot more from their defense this year. And the same goes for the Tampa Bay offense. You know, there's like zero chemistry between Brady and his excellent receivers. It's almost like they're all first-year guys. You know, Mike Evans is having a lousy year. You know, he never finds him anymore. So it's really a weird game. It's who's not going to screw this up. And I don't know. Give me a call when the game's over. I'll tell you.
Now, here's a stat that people will look at and say, wow, this is unbelievable. But you have to dig deeper, in my opinion. On the surface, you say, wow, Dallas has 54 defensive sacks. They're going to make Tom Brady throw faster than he's ever thrown, and he throws fast as it is. And as Russell said also in the chat, thanks for the comments, is that Tom Brady throws a lot to his backs. Fournette's going to catch 4, 5, 6 passes.
He better.
And if they use White will catch at least 2, maybe 3, 4, 5 passes. He's probably going to throw 8 to 10 completions to running backs. But back to the 54 sacks. Do you know that in the last 7 games, Dallas has had 12 defensive sacks? Now, Micah Parsons says, you haven't seen the best of me yet. I'm going to be unbelievable in the playoffs. And he may back that up, absolutely. But based on recent performance, Dallas is not getting to the quarterbacks. And that's why my lean, and of course we had a natural 3 and now we're at 2.5. My lean would be Tampa getting the job done at home, because I think Dallas is more equipped to go further in the playoffs, but they're also more equipped to lay an egg at any time.
You know, there's something to say about the word matchups, specifically in all sports in the playoffs, more than any other time. And I think this one might be slight edge for Tampa Bay because they're home. These matchups should give them a little bit of an edge. What they do with them is a whole different story. They got stuck in the red zone and settled for threes. They're probably going to lose this game, though. So that to me is a major, major key.
Turnovers, field goals instead of touchdowns, that may decide the game. We've seen these games play out, once high scoring and once low scoring. But I'm not sure drives are finishing in the red zone. I think these teams get tight. I think I mentioned on another show, and it's not my wheelhouse to make first half plays, so I probably won't make it, but it has the feeling to me of a first half under, or maybe a Tampa Bay first half under.
Yeah, maybe.
Total.
Yeah.
Because I just think the teams are going to, like spar a little bit at first, see what's going on, and then go from that. But we know Dallas with Diggs in the backfield, he's a risk taker. Does he intercept Brady, or does he allow a long completion to Brady? I mean, that's the factor, Ted, like you were saying. We don't know. There are unpredictability. Is it a 70-yard gain, or is it a 20-yard pick six?
And you know what? That's probably the best part about this game, because we have no idea really what to expect from either side. So just go out and play, baby. But I always give the edge to the home team when it's those many. You got too many question marks.
And it's Monday night, so you're back in the spotlight. It's the Monday night game. It's a standalone game. It's a Tom Brady special and whatever. Enjoy the game. My strong lean would be with Tampa, but I think I'd rather have 3 points, and I'd rather see them more efficient in the red zone than they really are.
Yeah. By the way, is there a concern this is past Tom Brady's bedtime too?
Yeah, I don't know. He came off early on the Manning cast that other time.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. He had to go to bed.
We have a few minutes, and we may flush this out a little more, some of these topics, Ted. But Coach of the Year, we've talked about it. I brought this up very early in our Inside Blitz shows all season long. And we had probably 10 different candidates week 5, and then we had another switch. And now let me give you some of the odds. Nick Sirianni is generally the favorite. Books place a lot of vig on this stuff, but he's anywhere from -175 to +250. Let's just use a consensus of he's the general favorite at about +150. Okay. You have Kyle Shanahan as the general consensus second choice, sometimes the first choice, at around 2-to-1 odds. And you have Brian DeBall anywhere from +250, +300. Those are your 3 main choices. You have Doug Peterson, Sean McDermott, Dan Campbell next. No mention of Zach Taylor, who's done a really good job. But if you're looking at the top three, any separation for you between Sirianni, Shanahan, and DeBall?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not the norm because I really got to give an edge to Doug Peterson over all of them. Because Doug Peterson brought this team from nowhere at the beginning of the year when we already know what they went through last year. Their expectations were nothing this year, and they came from oblivion to make the playoffs. Now, yes, they didn't have a great record, but they have cleaned up their act big time. And the clean is the key word. They don't turn the ball over like they used to before. They keep themselves in games, and they have found a way to win. And a lot of that is coaching. And they have not made screw ups in coaching, as opposed to that's what Jacksonville has done over the last few years a lot. So I give him, he's right there with me. Brian Daboll is another guy. Those two, look, anytime you win as many games as Philadelphia won, their coach is right up there, but they have much, much more talent. And that's got to be in the equation. So I'm not saying who is going to win, but to me, who should win would be between Peterson and Daboll.
Okay. We fired 5 coaches, and there are a lot of bad coaches in the league.
And maybe more to come.
This year, I think we've seen a lot of newcomer. I mean, we've known about Pete Carroll as a teacher. We know about Belichick. We know about Mike Tomlin. We certainly know about Andy Reid. The group of people we're discussing today, 6, 7 of them. I think it's great for the coaching community that we're seeing so many more really, really good coaches. My edge would be for DeBall because he's done more with less. Exactly. I mean, much more with less. Shanahan did more with injuries, and his overall scheming as a regular season coach deserves absolutely coach of the year consideration. Nothing against Nick Sirianni, who's done amazing things in the last 26 games. He was learning on the fly his first 8 games, and then a switch hit with the early bye, and everything's been great. But Howie Roseman is hands down GM of the year with the way he crafted that roster in April, May, June, July, August, and even in early September. So he gets a little boost, and you're right, they have a little bit more talent. Doug Peterson, he took over a mess. He deserves high consideration. Zach Taylor took a Super Bowl losing team, Cincinnati, and got them where other Super Bowl losing teams haven't got them. Dan Campbell, an amazing turnaround, not only from last year, but from the first 7, 8 games this year. So it's a great coaching community this year. My slight edge would be DeBall because he's got them to a place where nobody thought they would get with that roster.
Yeah. Well, with the Jacksonville roster, though, too, in my mind, it's a similar story, except for they were even more in the doldrums. Besides the fact they have a potentially huge superstar quarterback, which helps. Yeah. But separate from that, the rest of the team was like, okay, well, they're probably last place again. Maybe they'll win 4 games this year, maybe 5. They're in the playoffs. All right. Yeah. This is Jacksonville. So I think Peterson deserves a major amount of credit to them.
A lot of good stories. Rookie of the year, I'll give you the top 2 are easily in the running with the odds. Yep. Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets, Kenny Walker with Seattle.
Well, I love Kenneth Walker, everything he's done, but how do you not have Brock Purdy in this discussion, even though he's only played, 6 games?
Yeah.
And 5 starts, I think it is.
5 starts, 6 games. It's tough. And it's even tough with Kenny Walker because he missed 2 or 3 games, I believe, as well.
Which to me gets Purdy even more in the discussion because of that.
I think in some ways Garrett Wilson's rookie season was up and down. And you think there'd be perhaps a better candidate. But a lot of rookies go up and down. Chris Olave had a good start, but then New Orleans disappeared. Some of the other rookie of the year. So it's a tough race. Garrett Wilson had to survive a few quarterback changes, so I give him the edge. And the Jets are a defensive-minded team with a lot of offensive weapons added. In fact, as we'll see when we talk about defensive rookie of the year, the Jets killed the draft, absolutely killed the draft. We're not talking about who would have been the rookie of the year, and that's Breece Hall, because he was on pace to get 1,200 yards before his unfortunate injury. Yep. I mean, the Jets killed this draft. And if we go to the defensive side, is it Sauce Gardner, who's just had a stranglehold all year? He's
Yep.
not just the top rookie. He's one of the best defensive backs, hands down. Or the up-and-comer, the number 2 pick in the draft, Aiden Hutchinson, who made Detroit look, he makes other people better, and that's the best compliment you can have of a defensive player. And the sack totals went through the roof the last 2, 3, 4 weeks with 4 or 5 in the last 3 games. These two have had amazing rookie years.
Absolutely. You know, the other way to look at it too is you mentioned how all these great picks that the Jets brought in. What does that say about their head coach? Robert Saleh did not get the best out of there. On their way to the playoffs, looked like a lock, and they just folded big time. Now, a lot of that's quarterback, but those were his decisions too. You know, how he maneuvered that. So, I don't know. He didn't make anybody better. And one of those things, though, we talked about for the last few years, a defensive head coach. How much does that affect what's going on in this game right now? It didn't help.
All great points. I will say this in his defense. He took a last place defense. That point defense in 2021 was world record bad. He made the defense back in his image a little bit. I give them tremendous credit. He just has to handle I think they're looking right now for a new offensive coordinator. So,
well, Nathaniel Hackett's available.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's his role. Some people, that's their role. But if he fixes that part, concentrates on the defense more, if they have another killer draft, so I'll give him some credit in terms of even getting Jets in position, especially since my 11-4 season win total record includes 0-1 on the Jets because I had them going under their 6-win total. I lost that one. So in my mind, he did something right.
How about Cliff Kingsbury to the Jets?
Speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, let's close a little bit touching. I think we'll do this with Chris a little bit more, but we got 5 job openings. Indianapolis, we knew that was coming. Houston, oh, I'm sad that Lovie Smith isn't there for another year. I mean, that hurts the pocketbook.
It's called free
Carolina, they have a tough decision to make. Do they go with the guy who got them more wins than they should have had, or do they go with the splash hire? Arizona, that handwriting was on the wall from week 3 on, and Denver, just a mismatch to begin with. And so let me start very briefly by saying Denver's the worst job because they are in a tough division and they have no draft choices.
And why would, we keep hearing the rumors about who they're going to interview and all this. Sean Payton is apparently one of the first guys they're going to interview. Why would he take that job? Unless it's only about money and they give him a lot more power there with the new owners that have a gazillion dollars. They can do whatever they want. If it's only about money, Sean, you got yourself a new career in Denver, baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Any of those jobs stand out initially as being the most appealing to you?
Well, not Houston. That's the worst one in my mind. Besides, you've mentioned Denver. You know what? Carolina's interesting because I think they have some pretty decent talent. Look, they were able to turn it around. You get rid of Christian McCaffrey, it looked like they gave up on the whole season, and now all of a sudden they're actually doing okay. So if they have a good draft, maybe they'll be something next year. But obviously they got issues at quarterback, and that's a tough one. So I mean, if you're a big time offensive guy, do you want to take over a team that doesn't really have a quality starting quarterback?
It's a quarterback-driven league, and unless you're a big believer in Kyler Murray, who I've heard will not be necessarily ready in September.
No, he's not supposed to be.
What are you looking at? Houston with Deshaun Watson as the best quarterback of those 5 teams?
No, or Deshaun Watson's not there anymore.
Wilson?
Deshaun Watson's gone, remember? You're talking Davis Mills, baby. David, the great. By the way, I like Davis Mills. Yeah. I think he's much better than I ever expected. And to me, he looks like one of the best backup quarterbacks for the next 10 years, but not a starter.
So you got Davis Mills. You've got the successor to Matt Ryan because they don't have anybody. You've got Sam Darnold right now and who knows what else. You've got an injured Kyler Murray in a scheme that the next GM and the next head coach may not like. And then you've got Maybe a
Go-
fixable, maybe not a fixable Denver, but 0 draft choices.
Yeah, the ghost of Russell Wilson is there.
Now I'm getting scared about all these jobs, except for that Carolina, Houston, and Indy are in divisions that might be winnable in the near future. Even Arizona.
That's
even
a best point right there,
Yeah.
because at least the near future, you don't have to win as much and still be in the race in your division. But and then, if you get a good quarterback or whatever, a couple of great drafts, you can turn it around to be competitive in your division. You're probably not going to be competitive overall, though.
We'll go back and revisit this. You know what's going to be interesting? Cap money is going to be interesting, because Jacksonville had 250 million. We all said they overspent, but they improved. I know they overspent. They knew they overspent, but they had to do it because their roster was bottom tier. Urban Meyer, decimated that roster in the same way that Chip Kelly did the same with Philadelphia before Howie Roseman built it back up.
Right.
So by the way, just trying to build it back up.
Yeah. By the way, there's one team we did not mention in this. The Los Angeles Rams might be looking for a coach. Very possibly.
Possibly that. And I'm a little surprised that New Orleans still has Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
However, if they still have Dennis Allen, please still have Dennis Allen. He'll be my Lovie Smith for next year.
Yes, Dennis Allen is not the most he comes through in the clutch when it comes to the point spread.
Yeah. Well, Ted, we did a lot of damage here. We miss Chris. We'll have Chris back on.
Chris who?
Yeah, he left us. He said, "Hey, the Lions aren't in the playoffs. What are we going to talk about this week?"
It's a week off for him, like the Lions.
It's a week off. We'll give him a break. We'll be back next week to maybe briefly touch upon what's going on. We'll have more coaching news. We'll come up with more stuff. Please follow us because this won't be on Chris's feed. Subscribe to my YouTube. Buy Ted's book. Follow Ted on Facebook and
Touching Greatness on Amazon.
Yeah.
And follow the San Diego Chargers. Yeah. They're going to do great this week. Go San Diego.
Yeah. We'll retweet out the show. Look for us later on. Good luck with all the plays this week. Bottom line is, it's going to be a fascinating chess match in most of these games.
Love
save for the Anthony Browns and the Skylar Thompsons.
Please.
I think we're going to have some great matchups. So until next week, see ya.
Later.